strengthening our communities while underpinning human health and development. Yet growing populations, along with greater awareness of the harmful impacts of land-based meat sources, have driven the demand for ocean-based alternatives. This has led to bigger and unsustainable fishing, trawling and dredging the ocean floor, disturbances in the ocean food web, and disappearing fish species. Is there time to restore ocean seafood resources? Yes. The Ocean Decade allows scientists, governments, and industry to explore and implement innovative solutions that reduce pressure on marine ecosystems by restoring and managing fish stocks, improving aquaculture, and harvesting sustainable seafood. Consuming sustainable seafood is an easy way to join the Ocean Decade. Together, we can support communities relying on seafood resources for their livelihoods while multiplying the seafood the ocean supplies. In the ocean we want, we protect crucial ocean habitats and harvest seafood mindfully so we can always rely on the ocean to feed the global population. Are you up to meeting this Ocean Decade Challenge? Join us today.
Ocean Decade Challenge number 4. Develop a sustainable and equitable ocean economy. How do we move from the ocean we have to the ocean we want? The ocean provides livelihoods and nourishment for hundreds of millions of the world's poorest people. The global economy depends on the ocean through fisheries, energy, tourism, and transport. The way we manage and share the ocean's limited resources has a global impact on coastal communities, indigenous peoples, and marine ecosystems. Let's seize the Ocean Decade to unlock transformative ocean science solutions that connect people with the ocean in a productive cycle. Investing in ocean science and technological innovations will create employment opportunities around the world and multiply sixfold the amount of seafood available. A clean, healthy ocean also impacts tomorrow's renewable energy sources, minerals, and medical breakthroughs. Over the next 10 years, Blue Knowledge will give us the tools to use and manage our marine resources for a healthy and productive ocean, for the well-being of humankind and the planet. In the ocean we want, both society and planet benefit from an equitable and sustainable ocean economy, so no one is left behind. Are you up to meeting this Ocean Decade Challenge? Join us today.
Our ocean is an amazing place, mesmerizing, mysterious, and the future of all life on Earth. 3.8 billion years old and covering 70% of Earth's surface, the planet has one global ocean. But we're only just starting to really understand how the ocean is now changing and how this is affecting everything, from the weather to natural habitats, food supply, and where we live. Meet the oceanographers who have studied our ocean over the past 150 years. Discover the inventions that are unlocking secrets from the deep. Hear stories of how a warming ocean is changing lives around the world. And learn about the science being implemented to keep our ocean healthy. One Ocean, our future. Exhibition on now at the National Maritime Museum, Sydney.
Ocean Decade Challenge number 5. Unlock ocean-based solutions to climate change. How do we move from the ocean we have to the ocean we want? The ocean is our greatest ally against climate change. It absorbs heat and carbon in the atmosphere. Mangroves and coral reefs protect communities against climate change effects. Ocean-based energy reduces harmful greenhouse gas emissions. But our ocean is unhealthy, with rising temperatures and sea levels, acidic waters, shrinking glaciers, disappearing ecosystems and species, intense weather events, and fish populations shifting toward cooler waters. This leaves our planet and humanity at great risk. Time is ticking. Life and livelihoods in many small island states are already suffering. Ocean science helps us understand ocean-climate interactions with data and knowledge to predict and respond to changes. Together, let's harness the Ocean Decade for ocean-based solutions to help mitigate, adapt, and build resilience to climate change, like making smarter investments in technologies that lower greenhouse gas emissions. From mountain to seashore, from small island communities to the largest cities. In the ocean we want, our ocean protects us and makes us resilient to climate change. Are you up to meeting this Ocean Decade Challenge? Join us today.
Ocean Decade Challenge number 6. Increase community resilience to ocean hazards. How do we move from the ocean we have to the ocean we want? Rising sea levels, harmful algae blooms, and more frequent destructive storms are putting the lives and livelihoods of coastal communities around the world in jeopardy. As threats increase, experts and authorities must have the knowledge to issue warnings, and communities must have the skills and information to respond effectively. The Ocean Decade will foster investment in more effective forecast and early warning systems so we can reduce risks and save lives on land and at sea. From global early warning systems to coastal cities and communities ready to face tsunamis, storm surges, and rising sea levels, to coastal and marine ecosystems that are protected and can offer nature-based solutions to protect communities and infrastructure. Let's harness ocean knowledge to empower individuals and prepare communities so they are ready to face natural ocean hazards. In the ocean we want, people and communities are safe and resilient because we can reduce and respond to the hazards of a dynamic ocean. Are you up to meeting this Ocean Decade Challenge? Join us today.
Our ocean is an amazing place, mesmerising, mysterious, and the future of all life on Earth. 3.8 billion years old and covering 70% of Earth's surface, the planet has one global ocean. But we're only just starting to really understand how the ocean is now changing and how this is affecting everything, from the weather to natural habitats, food supply, and where we live. Meet the oceanographers who have studied our ocean over the past 150 years. Discover the inventions that are unlocking secrets from the deep. Hear stories of how a warming ocean is changing lives around the world. And learn about the science being implemented to keep our ocean healthy. One Ocean, our future. Exhibition on now at the National Maritime Museum, Sydney.
Ocean Decade Challenge number 1. Understand and beat marine pollution. How do we move from the ocean we have to the ocean we want? Today, we see plastic waste everywhere, from the ocean depths to the remotest islands of the Pacific. Yet the ocean is also menaced by pollution we cannot see. Untreated sewage, pesticides and fertilizers, toxic chemicals, heavy metals and other harmful substances. They're not just a threat to marine life, but also to human health and livelihoods. The Ocean Decade is an opportunity to identify, map, and reduce these sources of pollution. Working hand in hand, scientists, businesses, governments, and many other groups can create and roll out solutions that eliminate pollution at the source, reduce its impacts, and deliver a clean ocean for us all. And as consumers, we all have an important role to play over the next 10 years to beat marine pollution. In the ocean we want, we embrace habits of buying and consuming that help keep our ocean clean and healthy. Are you up to meeting this Ocean Decade Challenge? Join us today.
Ocean Decade Challenge number 2. Protect and restore ecosystems and biodiversity. How do we move from the ocean we have to the ocean we want? Until recently, marine ecosystems were largely untouched and teeming with rich biodiversity. Yet something has changed over the last 50 years. Coral reefs, top ocean predators, and some of our last pristine marine ecosystems are vanishing. How much more damage must occur before we take action? Healthy marine ecosystems protect our coastlines from storms and erosion, providing safe habitats for millions of species key to nature's equilibrium, offering food security to billions of people and shielding against climate change. The Ocean Decade fosters an understanding of the challenges facing our ocean so we can live in harmony with nature. Networks of marine protected areas combined with nature-based solutions can sustain our needs and livelihoods while rebuilding a mindful, sustainable and equitable relationship with our shared ocean. Acting as one global community, we can harness knowledge to build tools that protect, restore and manage marine and coastal ecosystems. In the ocean we want, marine ecosystems are cherished and understood, keeping our ocean healthy and resilient. Are you up to meeting this Ocean Decade Challenge? Join us today.
Our ocean is an amazing place, mesmerizing, mysterious, and the future of all life on Earth. 3.8 billion years old and covering 70% of Earth's surface, the planet has one global ocean. But we're only just starting to really understand how the ocean is now changing and how this is affecting everything, from the weather to natural habitats, food supply, and where we live. Meet the oceanographers who have studied our ocean over the past 150 years. Discover the inventions that are unlocking secrets from the deep. Hear stories of how a warming ocean is changing lives around the world. And learn about the science being implemented to keep our ocean healthy. One Ocean, our future. Exhibition on now at the National Maritime Museum, Sydney.
Ocean Decade Challenge number 3. Sustainably feed the global population. How do we move from the ocean we have to the ocean we want? The ocean has nourished us for thousands of years, fueling and strengthening our communities while underpinning human health and development. Yet growing populations, along with greater awareness of the harmful impacts of land-based meat sources, have driven the demand for ocean-based alternatives. This has led to bigger and unsustainable fishing, trawling and dredging the ocean floor, disturbances in the ocean food web, and disappearing fish species. Is there time to restore ocean seafood resources? Yes. The Ocean Decade allows scientists, governments and industry to explore and implement innovative solutions that reduce pressure on marine ecosystems by restoring and managing fish stocks, improving aquaculture, and harvesting sustainable seafood. Consuming sustainable seafood is an easy way to join the Ocean Decade. Together, we can support communities relying on seafood resources for their livelihoods while multiplying the seafood the ocean supplies. In the ocean we want, we protect crucial ocean habitats and harvest seafood mindfully so we can always rely on the ocean to feed the global population. Are you up to meeting this Ocean Decade Challenge? Join us today.
Ocean Decade Challenge number 4. Develop a sustainable and equitable ocean economy. How do we move from the ocean we have to the ocean we want? The ocean provides livelihoods and nourishment for hundreds of millions of the world's poorest people. The global economy depends on the ocean through fisheries, energy, tourism, and transport. The way we manage and share the ocean's limited resources has a global impact on coastal communities, indigenous peoples, and marine ecosystems. Let's seize the Ocean Decade to unlock transformative ocean science solutions that connect people with the ocean in a productive cycle. Investing in ocean science and technological innovations will create employment opportunities around the world and multiply sixfold the amount of seafood available. A clean, healthy ocean also impacts tomorrow's renewable energy sources, minerals, and medical breakthroughs. Over the next 10 years, Blue Knowledge will give us the tools to use and manage our marine resources for a healthy and productive ocean, for the well-being of humankind and the planet. In the ocean we want, both society and planet benefit from an equitable and sustainable ocean economy, so no one is left behind. Are you up to meeting this Ocean Decade Challenge? Join us today.
Our ocean is an amazing place, mesmerizing, mysterious, and the future of all life on Earth. 3.8 billion years old and covering 70% of Earth's surface, the planet has one global ocean. But we're only just starting to really understand how the ocean is now changing and how this is affecting everything, from the weather to natural habitats, food supply, and where we live. Meet the oceanographers who have studied our ocean over the past 150 years. Discover the inventions that are unlocking secrets from the deep. Hear stories of how a warming ocean is changing lives around the world. And learn about the science being implemented to keep our ocean healthy. One Ocean, our future. Exhibition on now at the National Maritime Museum, Sydney.
Ocean Decade Challenge number 5. Unlock ocean-based solutions to climate change. How do we move from the ocean we have to the ocean we want? The ocean is our greatest ally against climate change. It absorbs heat and carbon in the atmosphere. Mangroves and coral reefs protect communities against climate change effects. Ocean-based energy reduces harmful greenhouse gas emissions. But our ocean is unhealthy, with rising temperatures and sea levels, acidic waters, shrinking glaciers, disappearing ecosystems and species, intense weather events, and fish populations shifting toward cooler waters. This leaves our planet and humanity at great risk. Time is ticking. Life and livelihoods in many small island states are already suffering. Ocean science helps us understand ocean-climate interactions with data and knowledge to predict and respond to changes. Together, let's harness the Ocean Decade for ocean-based solutions to help mitigate, adapt, and build resilience to climate change, like making smarter investments in technologies that lower greenhouse gas emissions. From mountain to seashore, from small island communities to the largest cities. In the ocean we want, our ocean protects us and makes us resilient to climate change. Are you up to meeting this Ocean Decade Challenge? Join us today.
Ocean Decade Challenge number 6. Increase community resilience to ocean hazards. How do we move from the ocean we have to the ocean we want? Rising sea levels, harmful algae blooms, and more frequent destructive storms are putting the lives and livelihoods of coastal communities around the world in jeopardy. As threats increase, experts and authorities must have the knowledge to issue warnings, and communities must have the skills and information to respond effectively. The Ocean Decade will foster investment in more effective forecast and early warning systems so we can reduce risks and save lives on land and at sea. From global early warning systems to coastal cities and communities ready to face tsunamis, storm surges, and rising sea levels, to coastal and marine ecosystems that are protected and can offer nature-based solutions to protect communities and infrastructure. Let's harness ocean knowledge to empower individuals and prepare communities so they are ready to face natural ocean hazards. In the ocean we want, people and communities are safe and resilient because we can reduce and respond to the hazards of a dynamic ocean. Are you up to meeting this Ocean Decade Challenge? Join us today.
Our ocean is an amazing place, mesmerising, mysterious, and the future of all life on Earth. 3.8 billion years old and covering 70% of Earth's surface, the planet has one global ocean. But we're only just starting to really understand how the ocean is now changing and how this is affecting everything, from the weather to natural habitats, food supply, and where we live. Meet the oceanographers who have studied our ocean over the past 150 years. Discover the inventions that are unlocking secrets from the deep. Hear stories of how a warming ocean is changing lives around the world. And learn about the science being implemented to keep our ocean healthy. One Ocean, our future. Exhibition on now at the National Maritime Museum, Sydney.
Today we're honoring the ocean and the life it gives us. Hello everyone. A warm welcome to the United Nations Ocean Decade Regional Kickoff Conference for Western Pacific and its adjacent areas. My name is Hani Cholapansanarula. Very delighted to be here as your host, and with me is my wonderful co-host, Alex Randall. Hello Alex, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. Thank you for asking me. I mean, it's a great day, a great decade to honor the ocean. And I've really been thinking about what the introductory video has said, that this COVID-19 pandemic really does demonstrate to us how connected humans are to our environment, that whatever happens to our environment will also impact us in every way.
That is such an insightful reflection, Alex. Today we actually have a chance to reflect even more deeper as to how this huge and important part of the environment, the ocean, influences our lives, and often in many ways we don't even recognize it. So to begin our reflection, let us hear from the conference's host country and UNESCO, who together with so many others in the Western Pacific region are leading the way in honoring the important role of the ocean and ocean science to our lives. I have the privilege of introducing you to our two distinguished speakers, Thailand Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment Minister, His Excellency Warawut Silapa Acha, and UNESCO Deputy Director General, His Excellency Ambassador Xing Xu. Let us all listen to their welcome message.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, Sawasdee krap. It is an honor for Thailand to host this important event, the UN Ocean Decade Kickoff Conference on the Western Pacific and its adjacent areas. I truly appreciate all efforts from UNESCO IOC Westpac, as well as our local and regional partners, which make this conference happen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am certain that we all realize that billions of people around the world are more or less connected to the ocean. In our region, where many people are living in coastal communities, the ocean is not only a source of food and livelihood, but it is an intrinsic part of their culture and heritage. Moreover, the ocean plays an essential and usually unrecognized role in our daily lives. Indeed, breathing itself would be impossible without the ocean, which produces half of the Earth's oxygen. The ocean is also an enormous economic asset. It's a matter of fact that despite the vast benefits we have achieved and harvested from the ocean, more than 80% remained unexplored. Unfortunately, we must admit that the majority of human beings has not handled the ocean with care. There is an increase in the degradation of coastal and marine ecosystems from a vast variety of anthropogenic threats, such as marine pollutions, overexploitation of resources, habitat destruction, and even climate change. Scientific evidence has revealed that the ocean is being disproportionately impacted by increasing carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gas emission from human activities. These threats have debilitated the oceans in providing vital ecosystem services and eventually hampered socio-economic growth and development. Maintaining a healthy ocean is therefore vital for improving global health and increasing global prosperity for everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely believe that the ocean is not too big to fail, and yet it is not too big to fix neither. If we cooperate and manage the ocean in an integrated manner based on the scientific understanding, we do need a stronger scientific policy interfaces as well as new partnership in reviving the ocean's health back to where it was. The United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development during 2021 to 2030 was proclaimed to mobilize ocean stakeholders worldwide behind a common framework that will ensure ocean science can fully support countries in the achievement of the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development. It is everyone's decade, and it is us who need to act now, as there is no one else. The action agenda during the next decade is ambitious, but entirely feasible. Thailand, as one of the coastal countries in the region, stands ready and will actively engage in the decade implementation plan, both with the IOC and through the Westpac. We have taken our first step by proposing to host the Decade Coordination Office, to be located at the Department of Marine and Coastal Resources by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment. Now, the office will be building on the existing regional structure of the Westpac office and would serve as a platform to promote and enhance cooperative activities in the region during the next decade. Everyone is welcome to the office as well as our beautiful country, as Thailand is already reopened. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this two-day conference is another vital step that will provide opportunity for all of us to exchange views and related experiences, as well as to propose the possible solutions which would be the valuable contribution to the implementation of the decade plan. It is indeed a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for all of us to work with partners from around the world to develop the science we need for the ocean we want. Thank you, and Government Crab.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I am very happy to join you for this regional conference to kick off the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. This is an important meeting. It is here that we must build momentum in our quest to better understand and preserve marine areas, which cover more than 71% of our planet's surface. Our present and future depends on it. Indeed, the ocean plays a crucial role in addressing global challenges. Firstly, it is a veritable carbon sponge. It has absorbed half of the carbon dioxide that humanity has emitted since the Industrial Revolution. Secondly, the ocean is an incredible reservoir of biodiversity. You know this better than anyone, since the Pacific Ocean is home to the richest and most abundant marine biodiversity on the planet, with more than 50% of the world's coral reefs and the world's biggest mangrove forests. Thirdly, the ocean is an economic engine that ensures the survival of more than 3 billion people. And lastly, I would mention one more role the ocean plays: its importance for the region's history and culture, which have nurtured the imagination for centuries. Unfortunately, however, this global commons is largely unknown to us, and consequently, we treat it badly. We all now know that humans are responsible not just for the pollution of the ocean, but also for its acidification and warming, and this has serious consequences. According to the report by the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, published in May, the ocean may soon stop absorbing carbon. Instead, it could become a carbon emitter, worsening an already worrying situation. Climate disruption, ocean acidification, pollution, overfishing, habitat degradation, maritime disasters, threats to the ocean are legion. To protect our ocean and the well-being of humanity, we must work together to develop sustainable solutions. That is precisely the goal of the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. In July, we officially launched the Ocean Decade in Berlin with representatives from ocean communities across the globe, including many people from this region. Today, I am honored to be taking part in the official launch of the Ocean Decade in the West Pacific, and I want to thank Thailand for this initiative. I am delighted that this conference is bringing together diverse actors from the public and the private spheres, as well as civil society. This is an encouraging sign of our common will to act for our ocean. Excellencies, Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot say it clearly enough. This decade is an opportunity to bring new attention, understanding, and politics to bear on the ocean. It is now up to you, to us, to seize this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, our distinguished speakers. And of course, the ocean gives us life and livelihood. Nowhere is this truer than for the many people living in the Western Pacific region, and some of whom I believe are participating in the conference today via the various live stream channels that we have.
Yes, that is right. And we would like to acknowledge our conference participants today. We have more than 1,000 participants coming from 65 different countries, including small islands, developing countries, or least developed countries, have all connected with us through Zoom and maybe some other live streams such as YouTube or Facebook. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. But it would be great to hear from you. So please join us on this interactive exercise. To join this exercise, please scan this QR code that you are seeing on the screen. Alternatively, you just may also click on the link below that you could see in the chat box. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and your motivation for coming today by answering the following questions. So the first question is, where are you connecting from? Whereabouts in the world are you watching us from? Should be South Asia, Southeast Asia. We have people from, as we said earlier, 65 different countries. Could be America, could be Europe. Please let us know.
Could be anywhere, but we'd love to know, where are you joining us from? And
Yes.
of course, it might take
Could
a
be-
bit
could be
for the results to
Africa.
come out on the screen. Well, Alex, we do
Oh,
have Europe,
okay.
17%, Southeast Asia, 62 so far.
Okay, Southeast Asia keeps going up, but we have Northeast Asia, 24% at this point, now to 22.
Okay.
Europe, we have people from Europe, South Pacific, and other parts of Asia as well.
Well, it looks like most of our participants are joining us from this region, Southeast
Right.
Asia.
Southeast Asia.
Interesting indeed.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the result.
So thank you.
Moving on to our next question. Now
Yes.
we know where you're connecting from. We'd also like to know which best describes what you do.
Yes, so whatever is your occupation or who you work for, if you're a student, please say so. If you're a researcher in the field, please say so. Or you work for the government or maybe some foundation in the local areas. If you work from the media sector or
Whoever you are, whatever
yeah,
you do,
whatever
let
you
us
do,
know.
we just really want to know, right?
All right, so we
Yes.
have researchers, academia,
Okay, we have a-
46%, government, the government sector, Alex, around 20 plus 27. And then we have students, like you mentioned. A lot of students are joining us as well, 13%.
We have a lot of students. That is great because they are our future generation.
Yes, and intergovernmental organization, so far around about 8%. Private business sector, of course, they're important to fulfilling the Ocean Decade, the Ocean Vision as well.
Yeah.
That is about 5%. And lastly, I see here the Civil Donor Foundation, just a teeny bit, 1%?
Yep, thank you very much for your answers. And the last question, what do you hope to achieve from this conference? Please let us know. So to learn more about the Ocean Decade, maybe, or to develop networks for further Decade actions, which is also a great thing, or to join the development of the Decade action proposals. Okay, so as we can see in pink, oh no, we have a leader to learn more about the Ocean Decade and ocean science development within the region.
So the results are fluctuating up and down. So we'll give a few more seconds for our participants to select what they hope to achieve from this regional conference. And I think the people have spoken. Our participants have spoken.
So the majority of the participants today would want to learn more about the Ocean Decade and also ocean science development within the region. So thank you. Thank you very much for participating in this little exercise. We very much value your presence here today. And so if you have any questions, any comments, please leave them in the platform that you are watching us from, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, or Zoom. So please keep it interactive and let us know what you're thinking.
All right.
The next 10 years will be crucial for life on the planet as we know it. Climate change, food shortages, epidemics and disasters, economic crises and unemployment. The good news? We can rely on a powerful source of common solutions to overcome these challenges. Our one shared ocean. Set to become the world's 7th largest economy by 2030, our ocean regulates climate and provides food and livelihoods for over 3 billion people. But do we know all our ocean has to offer? Can we harness ocean solutions to achieve our global goals by 2030? The United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development brings together scientists, governments, business, philanthropists and NGOs to unlock the science we need for the future we want. Are you ready to join the movement? Find out more www.oceandecade.org.
What is the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development? To tell us more about why this decade matters for the ocean and for us, joining us from Paris is His Excellency Vladimir Rybinin, Executive Secretary of the UNESCO Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, which was mandated by the United Nations General Assembly to coordinate the implementation of the UN Ocean Decade. Hello, thank you very much for joining us. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon, Jaime. I'm very well, and the track that you showed would be my dream to take from Bangkok to Paris on the boat. What could be better?
All right, today we are focusing on ocean science. We know that ocean science has been around for a very long time. So what is the main difference and the key new feature that the UN Ocean Decade hopes to bring about?
Hani, thanks very much for this question. I think let me go straight to the subject of the matter. The usual science as we know it is basically the science that follows the following direction of development. Look what we found. Can you use it? This is science based on curiosity. Right now we have very significant issues, and the films that we just showed that climate change, deterioration of ocean health, and many other issues. So we need the directed science, the science that is answering the questions that all require urgent answers. And that's exactly a different science that we try to develop under the decade. So now we have to identify the problem, to understand what we need to know, what we know, what we don't, and with that we will design the science that will answering those questions. We already would like to have qualified, I would say, several issues that we would like to fix in the ocean, and this is called societal outcomes. This film showed such outcomes like resilient ocean, safe ocean. But the science is also not direct. In order to make ocean resilient, it doesn't mean we mean to basically do something with the water. We need to work on 10 decade challenges. So it is a design process leading us to certain qualities of the ocean through the research in many areas. And this will make the science that will be, I think, more authoritative, more sustainable itself, despite it is, science focused on sustainable development. The science has to be sustainable itself because we don't have sustainability of our networks. So the science has to be co-designed. That is most important because, this brings me to the first paradigm that I mentioned. It is the people who live with the ocean, who depend on the ocean, will be designing that science. And with that, we will be able to answer those questions. So I'm very happy that we started this process in 2016, and now we have more than 1,000 people from different parts of the world, mostly Southeast Asia, attending this conference. So that is the science for everyone.
Dr. Arabinin, the Ocean Decade puts a highlight on more meaningful collaboration across sectors, disciplines, genders, generations, and also geographies. How could the Western Pacific region contribute to and benefit from these meaningful collaboration? And what do you think is the role or contribution of the Western Pacific region in the Ocean Decade implementation?
First of all, I think I would like to say that, when I will be born next time, I would like to live in your region. The region is wonderful. People are kind, and I think kindness and also the dependence on the ocean is central for the decade, and so what you described, Hani, as all these attributes of science, well, this is absolutely correct. The science has to be, I will say now, transdisciplinary, focusing on certain issues, moving geographies. But I would like to say that 1,000 participants in this meeting, dependence on the ocean, also the current level of science development, make this region really special. So there is a huge power of science in that region. The science is focusing on the key areas that are so important for the whole world. And I would like to say that the 17 incubators of that conference that are going to be, and already have started, they show the capacity of science in different domains. But I think what is very important now is to bring together the power and the knowledge in all these domains, 17 domains, or in the domains of the 7 societal outcomes together. So scientists and also practitioners will be working, creating a value chain that starts with observations, goes through data, goes through modeling, predictions, creates databases. These databases are known to users. Users are using those databases. Now that information is going to governmental sources that already expect that information, that already declare that they need this information. And when we will create this value chain, I think the use of the ocean, the state of the ocean in this part of the world will be changed to better. So I would like to say that now there is a very significant engagement, but streamlining this engagement towards an end-to-end system that will be massive, authoritative, is the way forward for Westpac in the Ocean Decade, and you can do that. That I'm sure about that.
Now, what for you will be the key message of Ocean Decade for the people living in the Western Pacific area?
I would say this is a message of thank you, first of all. I would like to thank the organizers, the Thai government, Westpac office, many contributors to this meeting, scientists, practitioners, you for doing what you're doing. This is absolutely marvelous. This is one of the start of the conference was absolutely amazing. So second, I would like to say that the decade is really moving forward. We already have 31 decade programs. This is probably larger movement than ever in the history of oceanography. And these 31 actions are just part of 161 global actions, in different parts of the world. But the message is basically please to join. This is not this frightening science. I think just as a joke, let me quote to you one of the titles of my recent research, like maybe 15 years ago, maybe more. Semi-Lagrangian implicit numerical schemes for a third-generation spectral wind wave model. Many people wouldn't understand the world, but this decade is different. So this is a very human science decade. We are focusing on the decade of ocean empathy, on early career ocean professionals, basically young oceanographers. We are focusing on the leadership of women in science. We would like to give ocean the voice. And that is the science that is going to help us to live in harmony with the ocean. So I would like this region to live in harmony with the ocean, which will be good for the ocean, good for people, and good for everyone on this planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rai Binin. And of course, Ocean Decade holds key to sustainable development, Alex.
That was great. It was super useful to have heard from UNESCO's IOC's Executive Secretary, Rai Binin, as to what the Ocean Decade is actually all about. But if you still are not convinced of how central the ocean is to our lives here in the Western Pacific, I invite you to listen to our dedicated leaders from different countries in the region as they speak about how connected the countries are to the ocean. They also tell us how they commit to advancing ocean science development and cooperation for the UN Ocean Decade.
尊敬的各位代表，女士们、先生们，大家好。首先，我代表中国自然资源部、国家海洋局，对联合国海洋10年西太平洋地区启动大会的举办表示祝贺，对为筹备这次活动，在本地区推动落实海洋10年而付出不懈努力的 IOC 西太秘书处表示感谢。众所周知，海洋是生命的摇篮，资源的宝库，对全球气候发挥着关键调节作用，支撑着人类经济社会的发展。然而不幸的是，由于人类活动的失度、失序而导致的海洋污染、缺氧、酸化、生物多样性降低，以及海平面上升、风暴潮、巨浪等恶劣海况，不仅严重影响海洋健康，而且直接威胁着人类自身安全。因此，落实海洋10年要坚持问题导向、目标导向和系统思维，将人类活动与海洋健康密切关联起来，推动研究工作的方法变革，使研究成果直接成为完善海洋治理、促进海洋可持续发展的有效解决方案和政策工具。毫无疑问，这是一个挑战，需要社会各方面的共同努力。女士们、先生们，中国自古就有道法自然、天人合一的理念和智慧。当前，中国政府秉承创新、协调、绿色、开放、共享新发展理念，积极倡导坚持人与自然和谐共生，完善全球环境治理，积极应对气候变化，构建人与自然生命共同体。这与海洋10年的愿景和目标不谋而合。目前，中国政府正积极筹划海洋10年行动方案，将汇集更多力量，投放更多资源，推动人类活动与海洋健康关系的认知更全面、更系统、更深入，为问题的解决提供科学方案和政策工具。我们将继续支持联合国教科文组织政府间海洋学委员会和西太分委会发挥全球和区域协调作用，愿与国际社会，特别是西太平洋地区国家加强合作，为海洋10年的有效落实而努力。女士们、先生们，仍在肆虐的新冠疫情对世界产生深刻影响。它提醒我们，在全球化的今天，没有与世隔绝的孤岛。人类社会是一个命运相连的共同体，我们必须携手并进，团结合作，才能共克时艰。在推动落实海洋10年、实现联合国可持续发展目标14的进程中，我们也应该有这样的共识。最后，预祝本次活动圆满成功，谢谢大家。
The decade of ocean science is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us to work together in improving and maintaining the health of our oceans. The ocean has a critical role in the sustainability of our blue planet. Thus, the well-being of the human race, the oceans are the key regulators of our climate system. And today, more than 90% of the total world trade volume and over 40% of world trade value are undertaken through the oceans. As the largest archipelagic country in the world, approximately 70% of Indonesia is made up of seawater, with over 17,000 islands. We rely on our seas for food and transportation, for the marine industry, and for a sustainable economy and livelihoods. In particular, we are blessed with the world's most diverse tropical coral reefs ecosystem that supports our fisheries and also tourism, as well as mangrove and seagrass ecosystems that provide protection against high wave and climate change impacts. The seas that reach 7,000 meters depth are a library of marine biodiversity. For coastal countries such as Indonesia, we must also manage threats from natural and anthropogenic disasters, such as storm surge, tsunami, and the impacts of climate change. Indonesia is determined to contribute positively to the UN Ocean Decade for Sustainable Development. In recent years, Indonesia has implemented concrete measures toward achieving Sustainable Development Goals 14 or life below water. These include our commitment to achieving marine protected areas of 20 million hectares in 2018 and reducing ocean plastic litter up to 70% by 2025. Indonesia's commitment to supporting the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development is getting stronger as the new National Research and Innovation Agency has just been established this year. Research on the blue economy is one of the main focuses of the National Agency for Research and Innovation. The agency has a broader power to fund and manage research that stimulates ocean science and knowledge generation. New research facilities are being developed and equipped with state-of-the-art technology. Funding for marine research vessels and even the fleet of research vessels is increased to 300 at least sailing days per year. And we are investing in building open platform laboratories to support collaborative research. We should all empower and engage stakeholders across disciplines, geographies, and generations to achieve the vision of Ocean Decade, the science we need for the ocean we want. Therefore, we would continue sharing our expertise and experience in research, capacity building, and ocean literacy, such as through the IOC Westpac Regional Training and Research Center on Marine Biodiversity and Ecosystem, or RTRC MARPES. We hope that this will accelerate and harness advances in ocean science to achieve a better understanding of the ocean system and deliver science-based solutions to achieve the vision of the Ocean Decade, the science we need for the ocean we want. The National Agency for Research and Innovation is committed to supporting Westpac programs and collaborative research, capacity building of ocean safety generation, and ocean literacy to societies at large. And Indonesia will continue to take good care of its waters and work together with other countries and international organizations to manage the sustainability of our oceans in accordance with Sustainable Development Goals.
ご出席の皆様、私は文部科学審議官の柳隆です。文部科学省を代表して国連海洋科学の10年西太平洋周辺地域キックオフ会合のハイレベルセッションにおいてご挨拶申し上げる機会をいただき、大変光栄に思います。いよいよ本年、持続可能な開発のための国連海洋科学の10年が開始いたしました。四方を海に囲まれた我が国は、海洋立国として、当初拠出のユネスコ信託基金による支援や専門家の派遣を通じ、また、ユネスコ政府間海洋学委員会及び西太平洋地域小委員会加盟国との協力を通じ、各活動に積極的に貢献してまいりました。国連海洋科学の10年の準備期間においては、2019年に東京において、北太平洋海洋科学機構の協力により、ウエストパックとともに北太平洋地域計画会合を開催いたしました。国連海洋科学の10年実施計画の策定に際し、西太平洋地域において優先されるべき海洋課題を特定すべく、積極的に関与貢献いただいた関係各位のご尽力に感謝申し上げます。さて、国連海洋科学の10年実施計画で推奨されている各国の取り組みを推進するための国内委員会について、我が国では本年2月に設立いたしました。当初は国内委員会の一員としてユネスコ及び IOC ウエストパックと連携して国内、地域間、国際レベルにおいて様々な取り組みを推進してまいります。本年4月に開催されたウエストパック政府間会合において、我が国は黒潮と沿辺地域の第2回共同研究、健全で生産的な持続可能なアジアの周辺海域、地球規模の気候変動に対応した海洋環境変化の理解の2件を提案し、新規プログラムとして承認されました。当該プログラムを含むウエストパック事業を通じ加盟国と一層緊密に連携し、海洋に関する理解を深めることが海洋科学の研究強化及び国連海洋科学の10年への貢献に直結するものと確信しております。加えて、我々が直面する海洋に関する広範な課題に取り組む上で、ウエストパックによる地域イニシアティブと G7 オーシャンディケイドナビゲーションプランやG20 大阪ブルーオーシャンビジョンをはじめとする多国間イニシアティブが縦横の糸となって相乗効果を発揮していくことが重要と認識しており、日本としてしっかり橋渡しをしてまいりたいと考えております。今回のキックオフ会合では、国連海洋科学の10年にいかに様々な関係者と共同して取り組み、持続可能な社会の実現への貢献へ結びつけていくのか、有意義な議論がなされるものと期待しております。最後に、国連海洋科学の10年を通じて、今後、ますます海洋科学が発展し、我々が直面する海洋の諸問題が解決し、持続可能な開発目標の達成に貢献すること、そして本日ご参加いただいた皆様のさらなるご活躍を記念して私のご挨拶といたします。
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good day to all participants of the United Nations Ocean Decade Regional Conference. First of all, I would like to thank the IOC Subcommission for the Western Pacific IOCA Westpac UNESCO for inviting me to deliver a speech during the high-level segment of this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, Malaysia is blessed with natural resources and the marine environment is one of them. Marine environment is fundamental in contributing to various sectors such as shipping, fisheries, tourism, and recreation. Malaysia is committed in ensuring sustainable ocean management of the country, and we fully support the implementation of the United Nations Decade on Ocean Science for Sustainable Development 2021 to 2030. Science is crucial in supporting marine sustainability and in strengthening decision-making processes. In this regard, the Ministry of Environment and Water Malaysia always strives to increase scientific efforts through strategic collaboration with local agencies and universities. We also cooperate with other relevant institutions at the regional and international levels in finding solutions to marine issues such as in sustainable resource utilization. Ocean management requires whole-of-society involvement, including in addressing the rising concern of marine plastic and microplastic pollution faced by the global world. In this regard, Malaysia will intensify capacity building activities targeting the government sectors, relevant stakeholders, including community, which will also take into account gender equality considerations. The focus will be geared towards translating solutions to concrete actions. Capacity building will be implemented through practical and innovative approach by also utilizing local knowledge to address global marine issue in line with United Nations motto, leaving no one behind. Malaysia will continue to promote as well as increase co-creation and co-design of marine-related programs and activities to support the realization of a common future goal of having a sustainable ocean. I am pleased to share that we too are in the midst of developing programs and activities that can highlight Malaysia as a committed maritime nation. To end, I wish all of the conference participants a good deliberation and that you may gain beneficial knowledge that will support the betterment of our ocean. Thank you.
The Philippines is an archipelagic nation with a deep connection to the seas which surround it. Our history, culture, and identity as Filipinos are inextricably connected to the sea. We Filipinos have relied on the seas for our nourishment, transportation, and trade activities with other parts of Asia. The oceans and seas are at the heart and soul of our nation and are a valued and protected heritage which will be passed on from generation to generation. The Philippines is thankful for this opportunity to express unity with other nations in our desire to realize the United Nations Ocean Decades vision for an ocean science we need for the ocean we want through transformative ocean science solutions for sustainable development. The Philippines would like to highlight the following. We need to promote ocean science not just as a multidisciplinary field, but as an intersectoral one, integrating climate, education, gender, and other programs. We need to promote ocean science, which sustains a healthy and resilient ocean, helps map and protect marine ocean ecosystems, and enhances our understanding of current and potential ocean conditions and their impacts. We need to promote ocean literacy among our children at an early age and beyond, developing more oceanographers, marine biologists, and ocean scientists who can work towards protecting the vast oceans, their biodiversity, and their sustainable use. We need to take an inclusive and nationwide approach towards promoting a deeper appreciation and better understanding of the oceans, and emphasize the need to act now to preserve and protect them for generations to come. The Philippines considers the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development as an opportunity to integrate ocean science, indigenous knowledge, and innovation in policymaking for sustainable ocean management. Being a maritime and archipelagic nation facing multiple challenges and threats to its marine environment and marine security, We are committed to making the Ocean Decade a reality. Ensuring a clean and healthy environment is one of the Philippines' priorities in its Philippine Development Plan. An enhanced knowledge of past, present, and emerging ocean science issues is critical and important. Thus, we join the call for a global effort to translate ocean knowledge and transform ocean science solutions into action towards sustainable development. The decade is an opportunity for the Philippines to not only enhance national marine science capacities, but also to commit itself as a champion of SDG 14, which is life below water, especially in vital areas such as coral reef rehabilitation, sustainable fishing, and marine environment protection. Engagement in the decade may also aid in COVID-19 recovery, especially in food security and rehabilitation of coastal communities, which will greatly benefit the Philippines, where livelihoods have been hit hard by the pandemic. It is our fervent hope that the 7 outcomes of the decade for an ocean, we want a clean, healthy, and resilient, productive, predictable, safe, accessible, and inspiring and engaging ocean, which can be realized. We all want a peaceful ocean, an ocean where conflicts and misunderstandings cannot prosper, because we are committed to work hand in hand within and across borders and regions. We need to act, and we need to act now. Thank you.
Distinguished delegates and honorable participants, I would like to start by thanking the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO for hosting this important conference. At ESCAP, we understand and value the importance of the ocean for the people and communities. At least 200 million people in our region depend on the ocean for their livelihood. Our ocean is fundamental to harnessing economic development opportunities and to bringing harmony between people and the planet. But land-based pollutants, including marine debris and other human activities, threaten coastal habitats and marine ecosystems. Increasing acidification is damaging marine life and hampering the ocean's role in moderating climate change. Extreme sea level rises that used to happen once per century could occur every year by mid-century in many regions. These phenomena will continue to happen faster than expected and with more catastrophic consequences than previously estimated. Our most recent SDG Progress Report for Asia and the Pacific shows that the region is regressing on the delivery of Sustainable Development Goal 14. Asia and the Pacific is currently not on track to reach key targets, including those for marine pollution, the conservation of coastal areas, and marine resources for small island developing states and least developed countries. To tackle these issues, it is my pleasure to announce that ESCAP, in collaboration with other UN agencies, has developed a regional decade program to support the implementation of the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific. The program will engage a variety of key stakeholders to support the development of the science we need for the ocean we want in the region. Last year, member states reinforced our mandate to work on the ocean by adopting Resolution 76/1 on strengthening cooperation to promote the conservation and sustainable use of the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development in Asia and the Pacific. Throughout the Ocean Decade, we will continue to host this multi-stakeholder dialogue platform to support systematic regional dialogue and enhance regional cooperation by promoting experience sharing, technology transfer, and capacity building. I would like to highlight 3 areas of focus in our future work on the ocean. Only 3 out of 10 targets for SDG 14 on life below water are measurable in the Asia-Pacific region. Therefore, ESCAP, as a co-chair of the Global Ocean Account Partnership, will continue to conduct capacity development on ocean data, statistics, and environmental economic accounts. Efforts will also be undertaken to ensure complementarity and synergy with global and regional development in disaster and climate change related statistics. Through the Closing the Loop project, funded by the government of Japan, we have been advancing cooperation on measuring, monitoring, and developing data platform for marine plastic waste. We will continue to support initiatives that encourage remote sensing of marine debris in line with efforts to improve waste management and reduce and eliminate marine pollution. We developed an accelerator methodology for the implementation of SDG 14. This methodology helps identify challenges and issues related to the delivery of SDG 14 targets, where the strategic allocation of resources could have a positive accelerator effect with appropriate needs identification and implementation of inclusive policies. COVID-19 has exacerbated challenges that existed before the pandemic, including environmental issues around marine ecosystems. As we recover from the pandemic, we must embrace and protect the benefits of a sustainable blue economy. We must accelerate actions to recover better together and bluer. We cordially invite governments to join the activities in our Regional Decade program. Likewise, we would like to extend this invitation to all stakeholders participating today. Together, we can catalyze actions in the region to meet SDG 14 targets, as well as the objectives of the Ocean Decade. We look forward to collaborating with you throughout the Ocean Decade. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to our distinguished guests for your inspiring messages. Your personal support, as well as the support of your countries, organizations, are very much needed for the achievement of the Ocean Decade's objectives in the Western Pacific region. The Ocean Decade aims to bring about transformative ocean science solutions and foster meaningful partnerships that can support sustainable development in our developing region. I believe that knowledge and education provide the foundation for any progress that we will make. And to talk about what this may mean for education in the region, joining us from Phuket, Thailand is Mr. Shigeru Aoyogi, Director of the UNESCO Asia and Pacific Regional Bureau for Education. Hello, Mr. Aoyogi. You're at the right place, near the ocean, the subject of interest today.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, UNESCO's main missions are to cultivate a culture of peace, to alleviate poverty, to propagate sustainable development, and also to foster worldwide dialogue through education, science, culture, communication, and information. As a regional director, what opportunities do you think the UN Ocean Decade will bring about, capitalizing on UNESCO's comparative advantages, especially when it comes to education?
Well, thank you very much for a very good question. Well, the climate change now threatens the world marine ecosystems and the ocean's ability to support all life on Earth. The UN Ocean Decade reminds us that we have urgent choice to make. We can either continue on our current unsustainable path, or we can radically change course if we want to save the planet. The UN Ocean Decade thus marks a last opportunity for humankind to rebalance our relationship with one another and with our planet and with technology. UNESCO believes that knowledge and education are the basis for any progress that we will make. That's UNESCO's overarching message. We need to understand marine pollution and how to restore ecosystems and biodiversity. And we need to harness knowledge and technology as swiftly as possible. The decades aims to act as a collective call to action of all stakeholders, government, civil society, educators, and youth alike. Ocean waters comprise 71% of the Earth's surface, and yet more than 80% of these waters remain unexplored or unstudied. This means that many aquatic species and ocean habitats remain unknown to us. We need to promote ocean literacy. Every teacher, learner, government official, and member of civil society needs to appreciate and understand the importance of oceans and be empowered to be part of the solution. Recognizing this, education for sustainable development was a high priority at COP26 in Glasgow only 3 weeks ago. The decade offers opportunities to take steps towards achieving the ocean we want, a clean, safe, healthy, and productive ocean. But to get there, we need to cultivate ocean literacy in all nations, among all sectors, and among all age groups. Ocean literacy leads to informed participation in decisions on the importance of oceans to humankind, their current condition, and the future oceans in a changing climate. Ocean literacy at the level of policy, classroom, and higher education will lead to effective and transformative decision-making regarding our oceans. At the policy level, the UN Ocean Decade opens up doors to integrating ocean literacy into education policies, programs, and curriculum content. Ministries of Education and Environment should work together to raise awareness among youth of the critical importance of safeguarding oceans and of the urgent need to explore promising solutions. In schools, let's get every classroom and every school to raise awareness on oceans. Such work must be intentional from preschool to graduate level. Teachers and school leaders need to be better prepared and equipped to ensure that learners are knowledgeable, competent, helpful, hopeful, and engaged through holistic curricula and pedagogies, encouraging a whole school approach to ocean literacy. At higher education level, universities play a key role in research and the training of scientists to develop sustainable ocean observing systems that take advantage of modern technologies such as satellite and autonomous observing platforms and state-of-the-art modeling systems. UNESCO science programs are also helping address some of the key ocean challenges, such as plastic waste and microplastic in the oceans. Small islands development states, in short seas, are currently a high priority group for UNESCO. These states are threatened by rising sea levels, as well as degraded biodiversity and marine pollution. Oceans are key to these very small islands and for these states to survive.
I see. Now, to see fruitful outcomes, we need solid support. So how could UNESCO actually enhance further partnerships in the Ocean Decade, including international governments, NGOs, the business sector, youths, and others?
That's a key question. Thank you so much. So we have learned from the COVID-19 pandemic that we are all fragile and interconnected. Ecological transformation urgently needs the attention and engagement of all sectors to our societies if we are to change course and reimagine our relationship with ocean ecosystems. UNESCO plays a role in catalyzing regional partnerships to co-design transformative solutions with diverse stakeholders, including government, NGOs, CSOs, private sector, and UN sister agencies. UNESCO catalyzes enhanced multilateral collaboration. Here in Asia and the Pacific, the Ocean Decade ushers in region-wide efforts to form new partnerships for arriving at common solutions and harnessing innovations. An exciting initiative is the UN Decade Action Incubator, an interactive knowledge generators. And it's a kind of the interactive platforms or forum to catalyze partnerships, to strengthen dialogues between ocean knowledge generators and those who can take action, and to generate new ideas for UN Ocean endorsement. The Decade Action Incubator should bring about new partnerships that can swiftly harness innovations in the field. In education, UNESCO can be a powerful catalyst, strengthening collaboration between the education and environmental sectors to integrate awareness on oceans in education systems worldwide and on levels of our children's schooling. The seriousness of the situation can hardly be overstated. It calls for collective and collaborative action, ensuring national ownership, and of course, with full youth engagement. Youth are our future guardians of oceans. The sooner they come on board, the sooner they become responsible, creative, and caring global citizens. They are one of the most important players to lead the decade to success. UNESCO is committed to moving together with all the partners for the success of the decade in coming years.
Well, Mr. Aoyagi, thank you very much for joining us. And definitely, we would need stronger collaboration, more meaningful partnerships to get the science we want for the ocean we need by the end of the decade, that is. And that was Mr. Shigeru Aoyagi, Director, Asia and Pacific Regional Bureau for Education, UNESCO.
Pentingnya laut bagi masyarakat Kertasari dan juga saya karena kehidupan kami memang di laut dan untuk menghidupi anak-anak kami sehari-harinya.
It is a location with major biodiversity and this contribute a huge amount to our economies.
It is storing a large amount of heat, and that is driving eventually not only the weather phenomenon like cyclones, but also the El Nino Southern Oscillation. The heat travel all the way to the northern Greenland and also the Antarctic region.
You can see some biological disaster like algae bloom, like oxygen depletion.
Our fish stock is depleting. We are losing our coral reef from 40 to 50%. These are all the ecosystems that is going to support the economy. If we are now losing all these natural resources, then we are actually moving towards a future that is very scary.
We can provide information of ocean currents and temperature to fishermen and tell them which areas might be vulnerable for fishing at certain period of the year to reduce the impact of fishery on the marine ecosystem.
I've been working with a group of communities dealing with oyster farming. They know that protecting the mangrove itself will help them to generate more income to support their family and also the community itself as a whole.
they can use the achievement from science for development of their sectors, and to have a good policy for management of the resources and for sustainable use of the resources.
We have to ensure that we will not make any pollution or make some of the impact that would affect the ocean. This ocean science also helping us to ensure that our operation could have less impact and also could help our design for the equipment, for the platform, for everything.
不言而喻，西太平洋的海洋健康对中国和其他区域国家实现可持续发展目标至关重要。
The UN Decade of Ocean Science presents a lot of exciting opportunities for me as an early career ocean scientist. Opportunities to collaborate, to build research capabilities, and to co-design research and co-create solutions not only for scientists but also for other stakeholders as well.
The Ocean Decade is a wake-up call. We got to pay attention to the ocean as well, not only the atmosphere.
世界海洋是连通的。 跨学科、跨领域、跨地区的系统性合作研究与共同行动，才能找到解决问题的有效方法，保护好、利用好我们的海洋，实现人类与海洋的和谐发展。
It provides a very good platform to create a better knowledge to be shared, and that would actually create a better future for all of us.
Indeed, in fundamental ways, the ocean is the source of our life. By regulating the Earth's climate and by providing water and oxygen, the ocean made the planet habitable for us. And by hosting the richest marine biodiversity in the world, it provides sustenance to all of us, as well as livelihoods to many coastal communities around the region. It is so central to in our lives, and yet there is so much about it that we do not know and we do not understand.
And what we do not know and do not understand, we cannot harness to support the region's sustainable development. Earlier, we spoke about the importance of engaging a wide range of ocean stakeholders coming together for the Ocean Decade. Now, to join us in a conversation on the threats to the Western Pacific Ocean and humanity and how ocean and ocean science could help provide solutions to sustainable development challenges in the Western Pacific, we are very happy to welcome distinguished guests from various sectors and communities from around the region.
Joining us from the Philippines is Mr. Renato Soledam Jr. Mr. Soledam's career shows a marriage of science and policy, a marine geologist for over 3 decades. He joined the Philippine government as Undersecretary at the Department of Science and Technology in 2017. Thank you so much for joining us.
And joining us from Xiamen University in China is Professor Min-Han Dai, academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences and director of the State Key Lab for Marine Environmental Sciences. Professor Dai's research interests include linking ocean science and sustainability. Welcome, Professor.
Connecting with us from Tokyo, Japan, is Mr. Hide Sakaguchi, President of the Ocean Policy Research Institute at the Sasakawa Peace Foundation. Mr. Sakaguchi has been engaged in ocean research for many, many years, and now, through his work at the foundation, works to bringing public and funding attention to ocean science. Thank you, sir, for joining us. And connecting with us from here in Bangkok, Thailand, is Mr. Montri Rawanchaikun, Chief Executive Officer of PTT Exploration and Production Public Company Limited. Mr. Rawanchaikun leads PTTEP, a well-known international petroleum exploration and production company that is committed to marine environmental protection. Thank you, sir, for joining us today as well.
And joining this conversation from Daegu, Republic of Korea, is Mr. Sung Tae-yoon with the Kyungpook National University. Mr. Yoon is an early career ocean professional and has been dedicating himself to ocean science education and literacy for some years. Welcome, sir. And rounding up today's panelists is Ms. Maeve Nightingale, joining the conversation today also from Bangkok. Ms. Nightingale is currently the Senior Program Officer at the International Union for Conservation of Nature, or IUCN, where she leads the organization's work on sustainable coastal resource management and integrated coastal management policy and practice in the region. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you. As we say from Thailand, Sawadee krap, everyone.
Sawadee ka.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Hello. All right, so without further ado, let's begin this conversation. And I'd like to direct the first question to Mr. Solidum. Governments, with their policy-making function, they're actually seen to have the most responsibility when it comes to ocean management and sustainable development. How important is ocean science to underpin ocean management and sustainable development? And also in the Philippine experience, how is ocean science integrated to inform policy and decision?
I totally agree that the government is the main player in all of this, especially because of its policy-making function. As you mentioned earlier, oceans provide life and livelihood, but oceans can also harm life and livelihood because of the hazards and risks that might happen because of unsustainable resource management and natural hazards related to climate change and other natural phenomenon that would create hazards in the coast. It is important that we need to make sure that the potential of the ocean must be maximized for our benefit and for the future generations' benefit, but we must also protect the ocean and improve its condition. Hence, the ocean science is very critical because we need to make sure that we understand the ocean in its current condition and provide insight on what can happen in the future given the various states of use and current condition. It is important, therefore, that the research that we do must be aimed in influencing and fostering an enabling environment for both decision-making and policy-making. At the Department of Science and Technology of the Philippines, we have an agency that is involved on agriculture, aquatic, and natural resources. And what they have done so far is to influence policies in several sectors of marine science. For example, in the fisheries sector, they gave information so that policymakers and government agencies and the public would have the actual state of science and the specific fisheries sector so that appropriate measures for sustainable development can be implemented. Second, I also remember that one of our very famous tourist island, Boracay, has been stopped for quite a while so that we can actually protect not only the land-based environment, but the coastal zone. The beach of Boracay Island has been eroded for more than 20 meters in the past several decades. And simply, this is not due to wave erosion, but it is directly related to the protection of coral reefs, which are actually destroyed because of the untreated wastewater draining into the ocean. And because of the research of the science and technology, this gave the decision makers the decisions that are to be done and actions that would make sure that the waste, both solid and liquid, can be treated before it would be drained into the ocean. So indeed, science is very important, but we really need a lot of science to understand all the facets of the ocean so that we can use it for the benefit of the society, both for life, livelihood, and protection from the threatening effects of climate change and pollution.
Thank you. And since we are talking about science-based decisions and policy, the next question is for Professor Dai. The UN Decade is about generating ocean science that offers practical, sustainable development solutions. From your long years of research experience, could you please give us some examples of how ocean science provides solutions to sound ocean management and sustainable development?
Thank you, Alex, for the question. And as we have been hearing from previous speakers, the ocean needs to be managed because the conflicts, I think, are real between the use of the ocean for economy or social development and the well-being of the environment and ecosystem. This is two sides of the one issue, between the short-term economic gain and immediate needs versus long-term prosperity of the health ocean. Managing the ocean is, however, not easy because the ocean is big, deep, dark, and dynamic. It's an ecosystem remains largely unexplored. So it is quite obvious it takes knowledge, database knowledge, system-level knowledge, framework, or policy, or legislation to manage the ocean. It's logically clear that science and foundation are the foundation, knowledge are the foundation to manage a sustainable use of the ocean. So there are many example cases where informed policy schemes were established to manage the ocean for the good. I would take the Baltic Sea as an example to illustrate how science can mitigate issues of the ocean health. Based on the long-term observation modeling work, Baltic Sea Marine Environment Protection Commission, or Helsinki Commission, was adopted by the surrounding countries back in 1980s, with action being taken in reduction of nutrient emission, for example. This was then transformed into Baltic Sea Action Plan in 2007. This was a very ambitious program to restore the good ecological status of the Baltic marine environment. I would highlight that the Joint Baltic Sea Research and Development Program, or BONUS, played a very, very important role to incorporate the latest scientific knowledge and innovative management approach into strategic policy implementation and stimulates goal-oriented multilateral cooperation around Baltic Sea region. But people would argue that it should remain as per the marine ecosystem health of the Baltic Sea. If you look at the Baltic Sea as of now, which is, I would point out, is true, but these are, the remaining issues are mainly associated with legacy pollution, we termed it, cyanobacteria bloom, and the deep water hypoxia or anoxia, and the impact of ongoing climate change. I would say such a challenge exactly signifies why science is important for solving the remaining problem. I would also point out one fact. The 2017 UN Global Ocean Science Report demonstrates clearly that many countries actually lack fundamental scientific capacity to support the effort ongoing on ocean governance. Tools so need to develop, strengthen, and coordinate the management of human activity in marine ecosystem. These include increasing science monitoring efforts, knowledge sharing, and the transfer of technology of digital infrastructure to are especially crucial in the least developing country and small island developing states. So here, the international further development of international collaboration in marine and ocean science related science by policymakers, by building on established structure in the UN Decade of Ocean Science as a typical and the perfect example to pursue as a vehicle for this international collaboration. So I hope I answered this question.
All right, thank you very much, Professor, for sharing. Government is for policy making, academia is for research, but if there is one community which roles evolves depending on the society's needs, that would be foundations. So this question I'd like to address to Mr. Sakaguchi. Many people believe that foundations, including in the Western Pacific region, are a hugely untapped partner in efforts to generate solutions-oriented ocean science. So what role do you think could foundations such as yours play more meaningfully in the ocean decade?
Well, thank you very much for the fundamental question to me. But before I say everything, foundation is often misunderstood as a generous money supplier. And I myself actually misunderstood for a long time when I was working at academia and also scientific research institute for more than 30 years. And actually, money flows from a foundation based on its own philosophy. That is a very important point. And for example, the foundation I belong to, Saskia Peace Foundation. The philosophy of this foundation is simply to realize a peaceful and prosperous world. And then, depending on the scale and the locality of stakeholders, there are lots of peaceful and prosperous world-making activities. But how we can realize a peaceful and prosperous world? The first point I can tell you is forming network, partnership, and taking capacity building action. This is our fundamental action we can do. And for very simple example, in Japan, the National Committee of the Ocean Decade is formed and also handled by our foundation. And initially, the majority of the members are academia and government, politicians. But with our power of networking, we can gradually add members from private sectors and citizens and kids and so on. So these are one of our advantage our foundation can do, and also collecting information and make analysis from all over the world using our large network of the foundation and also stakeholders of foundation. This is another task, and then using this information and real fact collecting from all over the world using our network, we can educate policymaker and decision maker, which means governors or politicians, whatever. This is another our task and big advantage, because we do not need care about the national policy. So it's completely free from everything. So depending on our own policy and our own philosophy, we can manage to do that to contribute. For example, the ocean decade, to pursue the good science and good decision making and good policy making. So this is a fundamental our advantage and also our tasks. Thank you.
Right, so foundations have a more meaningful role to play, and we actually enjoy the ocean view right there. We'll get back to Mr. Sakaguchi pretty soon. On to our next question. Engaging for a long time on subjects relating to the ocean are conservation organizations such as the IUCN. Ms. Nightingale, as a conservation organization, how important is ocean science to your work, and how does it support your work on conservation, including on advocacy?
Thank you for the question. Very important and short. And we welcome the Ocean Decade in providing us with a common framework to ensure that ocean science can fully support countries to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and specifically the SDG 14 to conserve and sustainably manage marine resources. And this is essential to IUCN's work. So of the 7 Ocean Decade outcomes and the 10 key challenges, they are all reflective of IUCN's vision and aspiration for a just world that values and conserves nature. And IUCN supports these directly through science, action, and influence. In terms of science, we bring together 15,000 experts in 6 commissions, setting global standards in their respective fields, including famously the definitive international standard for species extinction, the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species. In terms of action or science to action, through conservation projects throughout the world aimed at sustainable management of biodiversity and natural resources. And in terms of influence or science to policy influence, through the collective efforts of more than 1,300 governmental, non-governmental, and indigenous peoples member organizations to influence international environment conventions, policies, and laws, including the establishment of the IPBES, the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform for Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. This intergovernmental body provides policymakers with objective science assessments about the state of knowledge regarding the planet's biodiversity, including oceans, ecosystems, and contributions they make to people, as well as the tools and methods to protect and sustainably use these vital natural assets. But I think it's probably, of all the ocean decade challenges, one priority challenge stands out as far as IUCN and the coastal and marine program in the region is concerned. And that's the ocean decade, the ocean decade, and particularly in light of the recent COP26. And this is the unlocking ocean-based solutions to climate change. And almost all of the remaining decade challenges, food security, community resilience, the achievement of equitable ocean economy, are fundamentally connected to this climate and biodiversity emergency upon us today. IUCN very much sees, in terms of the application of science, that climate change and biodiversity are deeply linked manifestations of the same crisis. And we know that the unprecedented changes in climate and biodiversity driven by human activities have combined and increasingly threatened nature, human lives, livelihoods, and the well-being around the world. And this is particularly important for the small island nations, which have been mentioned by many other speakers before me, both globally, but within the Western Pacific region in particular, where the risks and vulnerability are disproportionate. So from an IUCN perspective, there is much more scientific understanding about oceans that still needs to be collected, and many of these have been mentioned, but the science for understanding the threats, the key drivers of change to marine and coastal ecosystems are with us today. And what we now need to do to achieve and to collectively under the ocean decade of science and sustainable development is to focus on coming together to apply this science in stimulating well-coordinated, far-reaching actions for robust, transformative change based on scientific understanding and moving towards a more balanced concept of economic progress that balances human development with multiple values of nature for good quality of life without overshooting biophysical and social limits. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nightingale. Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. In terms of furthering the sustainable development agenda, Mr. Yun, what expectation does our young generation have on the UN Ocean Decade? I'll just repeat the question. What expectation does our young generation have on the UN Ocean Decade? And what opportunities does the decade offer to young people and researchers?
Yeah, thank you for questioning. Yeah. So first of all, it is honored for me to be here as a representative of early career scientists. And thank you for giving me a good chance to talk young generation's expectation on the UN Ocean Decade. So as you know, since a long time ago, people in the earth have benefited a lot from the ocean. So thanks to the ocean, we eat delicious seafood at dining table every week, and we live happily in a mild climate condition. And we enjoy beautiful environmental landscapes, and some people earn money by working in the ocean. And some people get emotional stability from the ocean. Just a few decades ago, our young generation, like me, of course, expected to be able to do everything that the older generation benefited from the ocean. However, as you know, currently we are in an unprecedented climate crisis. So climate damages such as heat waves, typhoons, heavy rains, and cold waves occur around the world continuously, which has led to even create a new world. The new world is weather refugees, not the war refugees. So if the climate crisis becomes more serious and the marine environment becomes more polluted, the clean and beautiful ocean we loved may disappear. I think that the difference between the UN Ocean Decade and other previous projects is action. So it's an action for the sustainable development of the ocean. So therefore, I think that the young generation expects that we are able to freely enjoy the ocean and continue to love the ocean like the older generation did through the UN Ocean Decade actions. So I'm really glad that this movement starts in our generation. And during the decade, maybe young people and researchers will get a lot of opportunities to feel the ocean closely and broaden our general or scientific knowledge of the ocean. And plus, via these opportunities, we can increase our network. Yeah, thank you.
So sustainability is the ultimate goal to the Ocean Decade. Our next question is for Kun Rawanchaikun from PTTEP. As a big international oil company, how do you strategically consider the role of ocean science to achieve your company's goal, both for profit and sustainability? And also, in your opinion, does the UN Ocean Decade present any new opportunities for your industry?
Thank you. I think this is very interesting question because people will look at it sustainability versus profitability. But when you come and look at it, it could be a dilemma to others. But for us, as you know, PTT Exploration Production, we are one of the flagship of PTT Group. We've been out in the ocean for more than 30 years. We've been doing exploration production in the ocean, in Thailand, in the neighboring country. We producing oil and gas. We secure the energy supply to the country and to the country that we operate. So we see that the balance of the knowledge that you come up from the ocean science and the profitability is out of the question. So we out there, we've been living, working in the ocean. Ocean is our home. So we have put in a lot of effort into the support that we get into the ocean science. Ocean science is not only for knowledge for all of us, but actually when you come back and look at it, it's complement to our business. Because the more we know about the behavior of the ocean, the biodiversities, the currents, whatever it be from the ocean science, it will actually support our operation. We can do everything safely. We can think about the environment. We can think with our plan for a longer term period of time. So to us, ocean science, the support that we come out from the company, it's no question at all. And we don't actually look at it that how much we spend on it. Would it be anything to do with the profitability? But the big words we're looking at is sustainability. So if we out there, we do an operation in the ocean, which is our home, as I said, and you don't actually contribute to sustainability or sustainable work or on the ocean that we operate in, that'd be something that that we be very, very disappointed about. So PTTEP has been supporting any program on the ocean science, the development, the insight, anything to do with a better world. So we also have a number of surveys that we've done. We also have the maturity assessment, from people outside the company, from our own staff, to see about how important it is. So we will continue to do it. We will support this UN Decade, Ocean Decade, and we think that the essentials of the knowledge that we have on the ocean side is something that is inevitable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rawanchaikun. And the next question is for Mr. Sakaguchi. How about for foundations? What are the opportunities offered by the Ocean Decade to foundations in the region?
Well, as I mentioned previously, we do forming a network and also making a partnership. And for example, the ocean is not its own country's territory. of course, there is territorial ocean, but basically, ocean is owned by many countries, many stakeholders. And then we definitely need a partnership to get to know the reality. What's going on in the ocean. For example, as just Mr. Rawan Jagti mentioned, of course, exploration, oil and gas, and producing oil and gas. People say no fossil energy at all, but in reality, we should manage to use it to live. But how we can, get to know the reality in the ocean and also atmosphere together. And so in that sense, we need to form the real good partnerships to have good balance. And that is very important. And then our foundation is purely, based on non-governmental, organization. And then we can consider, both sides, private company and academia, scientists, everyone in one table. So that is the most important, our key roles to enhance, to make the better and also peaceful world using resources and considering the conservation. So both at all on one field. So to make that field, that is our mission and our advantage to do. So without considering benefit. So that's our duties. Thank you.
We are still talking about the opportunities presented by the Ocean Decade. For conservation organizations like the IUCN, Ms. Nightingale, this question is for you. How do you think organizations like IUCN can contribute to or benefit from the opportunities presented by the Ocean Decade, including your work in that's related to advocacy? You need to put your mic on, please.
I think there are a number of, thank you, sorry for that.
It's okay.
Yeah, thank you for the question. There are a number of recognized ocean measures that IUCN and partners are working on that can make significant positive contributions to the Ocean Decade ambitions and addressing the challenges. I think some of the most priority ones from an IUCN perspective revolve around the protection and restoration of ecosystems and biodiversity. Through the promotion of integrated coastal and ocean management, enhanced and supported by good marine spatial planning, which by nature, of course, requires good integrated information management systems. And we hear many countries across the region talking about these ambitions for achieving sustainable blue economy or economic development. And these are compatible with also these strong marine spatial planning approaches that include the preservation of space within those plans for nature and biodiversity. And then just to hone in a little bit on the protected areas management interests, we're very much working in partnership with many countries to support their ambitions in meeting the targets for protected areas under the current ACHI targets, but also the anticipated targets in the post-2020 global biodiversity framework, or the 30 by 30 challenge. And these are to ensure that at least 30% of the global land and sea areas, and especially those of particular importance to biodiversity that contribute to people's well-being, are conserved through equitably and effectively managed, ecologically representative and well-connected systems. And we couldn't achieve that without excellent science and strong partnerships to achieve these matters. And one of the key tools we would like to promote really and is gaining ground in terms of its understanding is the IUCN Green List Standard for Protected and Conserved Areas, which provides a standard and a framework for international best practice for those involved in protected and conserved area management. But in addition, we're also working on initiatives that contribute to the Ocean Decade in terms of preventing loss and degradation of particularly of carbon-rich and species-rich coastal ecosystems. in the region. And here I'm talking about the blue carbon interests, particularly, and those blue carbon ecosystems, the mangroves, the wetlands, the peatlands, the salt marshes and seagrass beds, all critical in terms of contributing both to biodiversity and to our climate change mitigation. But we're also looking at science-based habitat restoration, which focuses on restoring ecosystems' functions, not just the area targets, but really the functioning of the ecosystems. We can measure area, but what we really want to see is quality ecosystems coming out, which we can measure and monitor through good scientific monitoring programs that contribute to our national and global goals. These restoration of habitat approaches can be some of the cheapest and quickest nature-based solutions for climate change, and they offer much needed habitat for plants and animals and enhancing the resilience of biodiversity in the face of climate change, but also benefiting in terms of flood regulation, coastal protection, and water quality. And then finally, I think the other key issue that IUCN is working on, particularly in this region, relates to the marine pollution, in specifically the solid waste and plastic pollution that we've been speaking about by many speakers. And here it's again the contribution of science to good practice, policy influence and action for improving the circular economy thinking in the way we use and reuse plastic materials in particular. Thank you.
Absolutely great. Thank you for your answer. The Ocean Decade is set to establish and foster more meaningful partnerships among various ocean communities towards one goal, which is to catalyze ocean science solutions that support sustainable development. So this question is for you, Mr. Yoon. What role could the young generation in the region play to promote ocean science for sustainable development?
That's a nice question. So, of course, I think that there are many roles of young generation in the region to promote ocean science for sustainable development, such as education, research, and maybe outreach. But due to time constraints, I can't talk about all the roles in here, but I want to emphasize one thing. The one thing is that practice the small things first. Typically, when we talk about the law, we are imagining something, a big law, but I want to recommend the young generation to start with playing a small role first. So in 2018, 3 years ago, I participated in a social project to protect Palau, which is an island nation in the Western Pacific Ocean. So this project was led by a cultural foundation in Korea, and its purpose was that experts from diverse fields visit Palau and drive a solution to protect Palau from climate crisis like sea level rise and the development of the tourism industry together. So what I felt during this activity is that easy and natural contents for me, the oceanographer, could be difficult and unfamiliar to the public or experts in other fields. So through this experience, I realized the importance of informing the public of the ocean. So I'm having seminars for the public and writing a series of newspaper columns to inform the public of the ocean in these days. So like my experiences, I hope that the young generation in the region actively share a part of your knowledge to the public and broaden your network to diverse fields, so which would be a start point to promote ocean science for sustainable development. And if I add one more thing, then I think that young generation also need to play a role as a bridge, like the connection between younger than our generation and older generation. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yoon. Advocacy for sound decisions and policy is typically directed at governments. So this question is for Mr. Solidum. In your perspective, how could government play a key role in the implementation of the Ocean Decade, and how could the decade better leverage the support of government agencies?
Thank you for the very important question. Most of the UN's advocacy and goals like this UN Ocean, the Ocean Decade for Science for Sustainable Development, is a very important advocacy that all governments need to fully embrace. As we all know, we share the same ocean. Although the political boundaries might differ, whatever we do in our own backyard, our neighboring oceans will affect the others. So it is important for governments to really co-design and co-implement many of the activities with not only government agencies, but also many other actors, including the academe, civil society organizations, community organizations, and citizens. But we know government is such a very big organization, and even across government agencies might have different priorities. So I see the Ocean Decade as a facilitative advocacy where government agencies will be able to focus on the most important things that we need to do to protect and improve the state of the ocean and develop an integrated ocean management for sustainable development. We need to strengthen governance structure for all governments because of this reality that there are many players. Hence, I see that the Ocean Decade can guide governments, especially in its efforts to integrate national ocean planning with the overall national development planning. As we all know, many of the archipelagic countries start developing things on land, but archipelagic countries, like many of the countries in the Western Pacific, have more than or twice the land area in terms of the water coverage. So we need to make sure that an overall planning for ocean must be integrated into the national planning. And I say that the Ocean Decade is transformative and innovative because knowledge about new science, new innovations, and data of all oceans and what are being done by other countries will be shared openly. So I hope that governments will really fully embrace this effort because our existence in this globe is really determined by what will happen with our oceans.
In the world of vision by the Ocean Decade policy, impacting sustainable development is founded on sound ocean science. So Professor Dai, could you please share your point of views on the needs for close interactions between research and other communities, like, for example, government, business, local communities, and any others?
Yeah, this point has been touched quite a few by the previous speakers already. And I just want to emphasize that cross-sectoral partnership building upon existing and a strong prior relationship will ensure scientific research as a scientist like me is under co-designing and solution-oriented in nature, which would optimize transformation of knowledge, thereby empowering ocean governing bodies and industry towards sustainable use of the ocean. That's, I think, is essential. At the meantime, we have to build up novel partnership between different sectors to generate science-based, innovation-driven solution to the ocean and society. I won't want to get into details, but among many others, I would like to emphasize the partnership between the public and the private sectors. We all know that private business is essential for achieving sustainable ocean economy, but the currently investment infrastructure and the business are developed with ocean industry that have different definitions and standards and the vision of achieving sustainability and the governance. In practice, I think long-term sustainability can only be achieved if best practice are applied across the public and the private sector where productive partnerships are established. I think I have been involved in the integrated ocean management, which is an approach that can bring together different parties, different actors from governments, business, academia, and the civil society, from the whole spectrum of the activity to collaborate for a sustainable future for the marine environment. Ocean-related business at all scales, I think, should be encouraged to cooperate in developing principles and guidance for sustainable conduct. I think here, for example, the UN a Global Compact Action Platform for Sustainable Ocean Business, which has developed principles and guidance for sustainability that several of the world leading ocean-related business have signed on, could be a very inspiring one. That's why my view for this interaction between different sectors.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Dai, for those insights. And well, we've heard about the importance of the Ocean Decade and the opportunities. Now we have questions coming in from the audience, and we have selected a few to ask our panelists right now. So let me read the first question. It's directed to Mr. Solidum. How do you think the Ocean Decade could promote ocean science diplomacy among countries in the region?
Well, given the fact that we will all be sharing the same data that we gather, this will be the basis of decisions and actions by government. And this would now be quite clear because we will be using the same data set. And because of this diplomacy and engagement, will be quite be more transparent. And we hope that with the Ocean Decade, this will actually transform the management of the ocean, not only through its resource, but we share the ocean peacefully for us to be all happy.
All right.
All right, thank you. And the second question is for Mr. Hide Sakaguchi. So does Sasakawa Peace Foundation have plans to support marine science development and cooperation in the region over the decade? Could you please tell us about these plans?
Well, I think I will repeat what I mentioned before, but for specifically Ocean Decade, as all of us, mentioned, especially Professor Dai mentioned, we need to, integrate from scientific information to the industry, and also, peacemaking or peaceful, days for life. That is a very important issue. So our Sasakawa Peace Foundation is not a research institute at all, but our task is to integrate from the fact measured by scientists, and then bring all the information clearly to the industry and making sustainable ocean development, and then eventually, make all the people, around the world, especially, along the coast or ocean-related people, as prosperous and as peaceful life. So that's our task in terms of Ocean Decade for peaceful world-making process. Thank you.
All right, so those were the questions selected for our panelists. Before we end the roundtable panel discussion, we'd like to ask each and every one of our speakers, tell us in one sentence, what is the one thing that you would like to see happen as a result of the Ocean Decade? Let me begin with Mr. Solidum.
I would like to see a healthy ocean for the benefit of society, benefit of mankind.
All right, healthy ocean. Professor Dai?
Yeah, I like to see one of the keywords I would like to emphasize is transformation. Transformation of doing science, transformation of doing governance, transformation towards best practice of use of ocean from the industry.
Transformation is the key word here.
Yeah.
And next, Mr. Sakaguchi.
Yes, definitely I'd like to see peaceful ocean. For example, ocean has unique single property if we measure something, CTD or whatever, and should not be different because it's a heart of the science because scientific terms, the fact is single, and no matter what country or what scientist or which people try to find out, there is a unique solution, unique fact, and then to share those information. For example, if we can have a disputed ocean among 2 countries or 3 countries, but scientists can find one solution and then share with other countries, so that can one of the reality of the peace ocean. So that is my big dream, our big dream, maybe all of our big dream. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sakaguchi. And Mr. Rawan Chaikun, what would you like to see?
Well, if I'm going to say one sentence, let me pause on that. Let me take a step back and say something on this event, because the UN Ocean Decade, it's a big event. It's a great event. I've seen, the contribution coming from scientists, coming from foundation, and for us as a business sector, what I like to see is the more contribution coming from the private business sector to do whatever we can do to help our ocean. Within PTTEP, I said it short, but we do have a campaign over the last few years, and this campaign will last for the next decade, the campaign called Ocean for Life. But we say Ocean for Life, we have aerial inspection using the technology we have on drone inspection for coral reef. We use the underwater survey, and we're also looking at the micro plastic as a baseline. We set up the baseline, and we will try to improve our ocean for the future. We're also thinking about, more of that. We talked about it before on the climate change, the climate crisis that we talked about, the carbon offset, mangrove, seagrass, blue carbon, that we would like to encourage everyone to do the same thing going on as a business sector. One sentence, I'd like to see this community, UN Ocean Decade, to be the community that we can share, we can collaborate amongst private and public sectors for the better world. We think about the Ocean for Life, and the Ocean for Life is for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rawan Chaikun. And Mr. Yun, what would you like to see?
So, can I talk 2 sentences?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So, as you know, currently we are trying to overcome the COVID-19 through the development of vaccines and cures for the virus. And I'm convinced that we can meet together at the offline meeting soon. So, like this case, I hope to see that we find vaccines and cures for the sustainable development of the ocean as a result of the ocean decade. Okay, my keyword is vaccine. Yeah, ocean vaccines.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yun. And lastly, of course, Ms. Nightingale, what would you like to see?
I think I'd like to see really the protection of the remaining biodiversity hotspots in the region. And we all know where they are. As the ocean resources are degraded or mismanaged, we see a chase for the remaining hotspots, the remaining primary biodiversity areas within the region. And many of these are transboundary in nature. They are located on borders between countries and shared by many countries. And I think it's, again, to reiterate that point about looking for cooperation across boundaries to commit to our shared goals in terms of some of these transboundary areas of critical importance. And also, if I may have one other one, is in welcoming the interest from private sector in terms of looking at some more innovative, sustainable financing that we can apply to some of these conservation challenges, particularly looking at sort of blended finance packages and solutions for mitigation of climate change and carbon issues, and also for the pollution management as well. Thank you.
Well, the Ocean Decade actually provides a great framework for stakeholders to come together, to cooperate, and of course create a true revolution in ocean science. It has been a meaningful conversation today.
Yes, it really has. So thank you all so much, distinguished panelists, for joining the conversation today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ
And we've come to the end of the program. I'd like to ask the same question, which I had asked you at the beginning of the program. After what you've seen and heard, Alex, how do you feel right now?
Thank you so much for asking me again. Well, actually, I have a lot of emotions going through me right now, but I feel very happy, I must say, because I've been part of the Ocean Decade Western Pacific Regional Kickoff Conference today, and all of this have served as a reminder to me that the ocean is central to our lives and to the solutions of many developed challenges that we are facing. And secondly, I feel hopeful after seeing the turnout today and the exchanges that we've had with our guests and our participants. I feel great, and I feel that I really hope that the Ocean Decade campaign will achieve its objectives here in the Western Pacific. And finally, I am super, super excited. I look forward to the many great activities that we will surely see within this region.
Well, thank you, Alex. And indeed, there are a number of things to be excited about. The UNESCO IOC has announced the first batch of the endorsed Decade Actions, as well as a second call for the UN Decade Actions. Now, Decade Actions are endeavors, program, project, activity, or contributions that are implemented by a wide range of stakeholders with the objective to fulfill the decade vision, the science we need for the ocean we want.
That is right, and during this conference, the Western Pacific communities will catalyze partnerships and strengthen the co-design of transformative ocean science solutions through the enabling mechanisms. Decade Actions Incubator Series. The Decade Actions Incubator sessions began this morning and will continue until tomorrow, so if you haven't signed up or you want to join any of the sessions, you can still do so. So please check out the event website link in this chat box, or just simply scan the QR code that you can see on the screen. And honey, you are not the only one that is extremely hopeful about the decade. There's young people from all around the region that have sent us such great messages, and we close this opening session with some messages of hope from around the region. So thank you everyone for turning in.
And that's it for Alex and me. Have a wonderful and meaningful decade. Bye now.
Our ocean is crying. He's lonely. He wants to be healthy and he wants to be good friends with us.
Sumber laut kita telah terjejas teruk kesan daripada aktiviti kita semua.
If the ocean is dirty, the animals will die and I'm sad. If the ocean is clean, I'm happy and the animals are alive.
We all know that this madness is created by our own hands.
The UN Ocean Decade tells us that the whole world starts to work together to protect the ocean environment and mitigate climate change.
I'm hoping to see our science and politics working together to create an effective implementation plan to reverse the decline of our ocean health.
I am most excited for the UN Ocean Decade to achieve its challenge in changing humanity's relationship with the ocean.
Don't hurt me and my generation by destroying the sea and animals.
I hope that future generation will see the beautiful sea just like I see nowadays.
Let's make the best actions and decisions, for we only have one planet to protect.
So please, contribute and support the Ocean Decade campaign to make this world a better place.
청년 해양도로서 UN 오션 데케이드와 웨스트 팩 킥오프 미팅을 응원합니다.
身为地球上的一份子，身为世界公民，让我们携手并进，为美丽的海洋尽一份力吧！加油！